Shalom, when the stuff, so by giving all praise to Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahshua, B'Hashem, Kadash. Double honors to the apostles of great most and honors to you brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the real name of whom the world ignorantly calls God, Jehovah, Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh, and his son's true name is Yahweh Shai. And when we pray Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahshua, burning in, meaning da, and Sham, meaning names Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai. Real quick, this is on the new digital ID scheme to be rolled out across the UK. This is kind of out of the blue. It's something that has been spoken about, not spoken about, spoken about, not spoken about. But for them to kind of just come out just out of nowhere and just be like, yes, by the way, this is definitely happening. Goes to show you that this man, he understands he's got a short time left, right? He's he's got agendas to fulfill in the time that comes, right? Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil has come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time, right? So he knows he's not got that much longer left, right? He understands that because this is it. It's he understands the prophecies, right? He'll make you believe, like, people in the world. He'll make them believe, or rather not believe, in a higher power, right? But he understands history, and what he's trying to do is trying to upset the prophecies, right? So this is Jeremiah 28:8, right? It says, and I'll explain why I'm going here, right? It says, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence, right? And I'm getting this now because he understands this history, right? He understands that when the prophets came on the scene, it was what you call it? It was go time, right? So knowing that he wants to upset prophecies, he's doing everything that he can to, try and upset prophecies. And he's seeing camps open up all over the world, right? As different, elders have said, right? They believe that he is seeing some stuff when he's looking into the heavens and, this, that, and the other. So, it's one of them ones where Esau sees what's happening. Right, he's got the true metrics of how many people are clicking the vids. He's got the true metrics of the sentiment of the people, because this is it. When you're using the chat GPT, when you're on YouTube, when you're on this, when you're on that, you're feeding an algorithm, right? And you'd be, even just from your YouTube recommendations, Esau can, not recommendation, but your YouTube watching, he can see how where your mind is. Okay, he's able to be like, okay, cool, you normally watch videos at this time, and then you don't watch any for most of the day. Then you start watching videos again at that time, so you're working. You see all of these things, right? So Esau's got the metrics. He's able to see what's really going on. He's able to see that more and more people are starting to he's losing more and more people. So he's going to start coming down, and he's going to start rushing things, right? Which is what we're seeing. So like I said, they've kind of been mentioning this ID scheme, whatever. But, the way it's just kind of come out as in like, yeah, this is happening, goes to show that there are other things at play here, right? So new digital ID scheme to roll out across the UK. A new digital ID scheme will help combat illegal working while making it easier for the vast majority of people to use vital government services. Digital ID will be mandatory for right to work checks by the end of Parliament. Now, one of the things that I had to look up, I consulted the robot, right? Because the UK, it's already hard for illegal I said illegal, but I meant illegal immigrants to navigate the UK, right? Because for all of our institutions, right, all of our, to be able to rent and stuff like that, right, you need to prove right to work, and you also need to prove right to abode. Okay, it's different. So now, for instance, if you're signing a new tenancy contract, you have to show them, yeah, this is my proof that I can work in the UK, right? I can live in the UK. If you're starting a new job, you need to prove, yeah, this is my right to work in the UK, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Whereas, so then you ask yourself, so this is what I ask, is it's incredibly hard for illegal immigrants to navigate the UK. We require KYC, know your customer, for all financial institutions to rent, etc. The digital ID is being touted as a solution for illegal immigration. Considering the rules are already stringent, how will digital ID improve this, or will the same exploits still exist? Right? So, short answer: well-designed digital ID can reduce some of the real-world routes that let people work or rent without status, but it won't magically close every exploit. And if it's badly designed, it will mostly add friction for lawful migrants while leaving many fraud vectors intact. Right? And the thing is, they don't need to design it well at all, because it's not for immigration. Right? It's not for immigration. We understand this, right? As I said in another video a couple of weeks ago, it is a preset that we seem to just bring out all the time, because E is constantly basically pushing devices out in the world, right? 2 Corinthians 2:11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Okay, so we're not ignorant of what Esau is doing, right? We're not ignorant of, his lies. We're not ignorant of any of that. Okay, we understand we understand exactly what it is that he's doing, right, out in this world, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shah, mind you. Okay, right, because this isn't of ourselves, right? The Lord is the one that opened up our minds to be like, oh snap, so let's carry on. It says below, I'll explain how digital ID can help, the main limits and exploits that are likely to remain, the risk for legal immigrants, and concrete design policy safeguards, right? This is how a digital ID could help. So stronger provable credentials. Certified digital ID providers can cryptographically attest that a person's identity document was checked and matched to a live face scan faster and harder to fake than photocopies. Now, once again, I just had to this can already be done with the passport, right? I had to do some taxes like last year or something like that, and I basically had to set up an account, right? And the way it worked is it basically made you download the Gov UK app. You put it on your passport. Your passport has a biometric chip on it. Then it reads the chip on the passport. Then it makes you do a liveness check, and then it's just there. And then it was basically able to do that. So it's like you already have this technology there already, right? But once again, the digital ID is a lot more than that. It's got nothing to do with immigration. Right, real-time auditable checks. Landlords and employers could run instant status checks, right to rent, right to work, using a share code or API instead of accepting paper documents that are easy to copy or forge. Now, we already have this share code system, right? We already have it, right? It says that closes some opportunistic routes for irregular working, right? Interoperability and provenance, right? If different organizations accept a common certified trust framework, right, then the provenance of an identity claim becomes clear. Who certified it, when, and what level of assurance. And all of that stuff is important, right? Interoperability, because E is building a system, okay? Why the same exploits or new ones will still exist: fake or stolen genuine documents, right? So this is gonna, you can imagine a system where it's like they roll this out, and then at the end of it, they basically, after they roll it out, there's a major data breach, and it's like, actually, we need to make this more secure. It needs to go underneath your skin, right? It says a fraudster who uses stolen passport, photo, or high quality fake document can still sometimes beat automated checks. It says synthetic identities. Organized criminal groups can build identities by combining real data points, right, into new profiles that pass document-based checks. It says corrupt or complicit insiders and marketplaces, employers, landlords, and intermediaries who want to bypass checks can collude, and that's what's going to happen, right? If you go to a proper if you go to like a proper what's the word I'm looking for? If you go to a proper like landlord, right, they've got to do these checks. But if you wanted to be here illegally, they don't, right? So I don't know if I want to read all of this. It's a lot of reading and that. Let me jump. Right, it says to perform right to live and right to work today, a person needs to provide this information, right? And then it basically says the same thing, right? And then I was like, so once again, how does this differ to a digital ID, right? It says it feels like a digital identity, but basically what you end up having now is just basically a blockchain system. Okay, what the digital ID is supposed to be: reusable credentials instead of generating a fresh share code every time you hold a certified digital wallet or credential on your phone, usable across many contexts: finance, housing, employment, NHS login, travel, right? Private sector providers would issue and verify credentials against government records, right? And that's it. Right, so then I jumped down. I think there was some more in there, but when it's just, I don't really want to do a load of reading at you. Right, so why do civil liberties groups warn against it? Now, this is really the point, right? It's a civil liberties group, because I try, when I'm using the robots, I try not to ask it leading questions, just to, and I certainly don't have like memory turned on. So just so that it's really just looking through. So then, people can look at us and be like, yeah, but you're doing this, you're doing that. So not, it's looked through the data on its own and it has drawn the same conclusion, right? Because that's it. It's like this information is all out there. Right? If you're watching, right, that's one of the things we're commanded to do. We're commanded, it's like just getting work messages and stuff like that. We're commanded to watch and pray. So it's Mark 13:33. Take ye heed, watch and pray, for you know not when the time is. Okay, and that's it. When you're watching, you're obviously praying. Salakia, watching, keeping an eye out on what's happening in the world, right? You're able to draw the same conclusion. You're able to be like, yo, this thing's close. Right? For us, we're like, yeah, we're excited, right? So civil liberties groups in the UK and globally are often critical of digital ID plans, right? Even when they're framed as convenience or anti-fraud tools, right? Function creep and surveillance risk. It says once a single government-backed digital credential exists, it's easy for policymakers, right, to expand its use into more and more areas of life. What starts as right to work rent, but could be required for healthcare, voting, public transport, protest policing, etc. Right, so basically they can then make it a thing of like, oh, because right now it's like, are you legal to be here, right, to be able to access certain things? But then they can very easily make it into a, have you got the authority to do this? So yeah, you got the legal ability to be here, but have you got the authority to take the train? Have you got the authority to, buy a car, etc., 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 which is the system, that is being built, right? In what do you call it, in this world, right? Rather, it's that this Edomite is putting together, right? So let me just end with this. Like I said, there was a lot in there, but for the interest of time, right? And like I said, I'm getting messages that I've got to respond to, right? Let's just read this, right? It's Revelation 13:16, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Right, so he's gonna force on everyone. What did we just read here? Right, it's gonna be applied to everyone. Actually, doesn't say it here, but in other things it says it will be so the scheme will be available to all UK citizens and legal residents, and that's it. Right, so that's all. Right, this is this is, and talking about, under this government, illegal working arrests have soared 50%, right? But this is, it's like, it's already illegal for them to work. So when they bring in a new system, it will still be illegal for them to work, yet they'll make a way, right? And it's only really when they start phasing out cash, right, that it's going to become impossible, right? Because right now, you just give a man a little bit of cash under the table and it's all good. Right, but as soon as you start doing more and more, it's going to get harder and harder, right? So yeah. Oh, in fact, let me just touch on one last thing, right? Verse 11, right? Because Trump is doing very similar things in the United States, right? But that's, once again, it's supposed to be a right-leaning government, and here in the UK we have a supposedly left-leaning government, right? It says, Revelation 13:11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, right? It's referring to a two-party system. It's still the same beast, right? It's just they one calls himself left wing, the other one calls himself right wing, but the agenda is still the same. The solution is still the same, right? So as always, Lord, with us edifying. Till next time, we say shalom.